Hello, everyone. Welcome. Thanks for coming. We have a couple minutes here before we get started, but if you guys don't mind turning on your cameras, that would be awesome. Wonderful. Cool. Thank you. Joseph, you have your hand raised. How can I help?
Hey Ben, just real quick. So just about early decision deadlines. I heard somebody say that if I wanted to do early decision this coming cycle, I would need, or basically my last test opportunity would be August and not September. Why would you say that or would you agree with that, or would you say that September is also an option if I wanted to do early decision?
Well, first of all, I'd be very curious why you want to do early decision. In general, early decision is not a good thing for
Okay.
most schools because you're committing to that school and so you're losing leverage, right?
Okay.
But there are exceptions, and even in that case, usually the early decision deadline is later than September, so you could still take it in September.
Okay. Well, I didn't know that it locked you in and about the whole leverage thing, so that's something I'll reevaluate. Thank you.
Yeah, no worries. Cool. Okay. Guess we have another minute here. Happy to take any questions before we start officially. I guess it's 1:00 now. So anyways, thank you everyone for turning on your cameras. For those of you who did. Oh, cool. Even more cameras. This is great. This helps me see you. And if you're like crying or something like that, then maybe I can stop and like go back over whatever it is that we're going over. If you're like falling asleep, then maybe I'll just like keep plowing ahead, right? Because you clearly understand that. So thank you. It's very helpful. My name is Ben Olson. I am one of the co-founders of LSAT Demon. How many people here have never been to an LSAT Demon class before? Just raise your hand. Okay, so a decent number of you. Wow, cool. Well, I hope it's a good experience. I hope I don't scare you away from the demon. But in any case, the goal today is to do 2 logic games. We're going to start with just one. So we'll do the first one. And I'll give you guys like 10 minutes. And so you can just do it on your own. That's Test 65 Game 2, the Crafts Studio. In those 10 minutes, you may or may not finish. It really depends on where you are in your life with games. Some of you have been doing so many games that maybe this will fly by really quickly. Some of you may have never done a game before in your life. That's all right. Just give it a go, and then we will do it together. I'll start walking through what I'm thinking and why I'm thinking that. We could talk a little bit more about games right now, but I will say that in general, it just seems like people learn way better and faster and clearer from examples, right, than in the abstract. So if we just do this game, I'll give you 10 minutes, and then as we're going through it, I can start telling you about how we think about games. I think it's going to make a lot more sense. If we finish this game and then we have time for the next game, which I think we will, and then we still have time, I'm happy to take any questions related to games or just the LSAT in general after those 2 games. But of course, if you have any questions during my explanation for this game, just raise your hand and I'll call on you and we can talk about it, because the point of this class is to help you understand, at the very least, these 2 games, right? If you can clearly understand these 2 games, that's going to open up a lot of other games for you. Of course, if you have questions that you feel like are easier to ask in the chat, that's no problem. Just ask them in the chat. And we have Abigail and Haley here today. They can answer your questions. Also, everybody in the demon community is super helpful. So I'm sure other people will jump in with their own experiences or suggestions. So anyways, use the chat. Take advantage of the class today. Does anyone have any questions about any of that before we do this first game? Okay. I'll take the silence as a good thing. Anyways, hit the link on the syllabus for that first game. Or wait, I guess maybe, yeah, Haley, thank you. You put it in the chat. So just go ahead and do that game. It's test 65 game 2 and give your best shot. Don't stress too much about, you know, exactly how you should do it. Just try to understand it as best you can and answer the questions as well as you can, and then we'll talk about it. All right, so that was 10 minutes. What'd you guys think of that game? Easy, medium, hard. Brandon says it's cake. All right. Easy, medium. Okay. Hard, easy. So more on the easy side than maybe on the hard side. That's okay. Let's talk about this. So when I'm doing games, I first want to make sure that I'm understanding exactly what's going on. And contrary to the way I used to teach the LSAT, which was a lot of like formulaic rules, right? Like, oh, I see this sentence, let me draw this rule. These days, it's much more like, okay, let me just read through this game from start to finish and try to understand it on a more real level. Okay, I know these games are silly and they have to do with random things that don't necessarily happen in real life, but in theory they could, and to the extent that they can, I try to imagine them actually happening, right? And the whole point here is to really just understand what is happening and then figure out the best way to represent that visually. How many people read through all the rules before drawing anything? Okay, we have a decent number. That's pretty good. There certainly is a tendency in the LSAT world to just reflexively write as soon as you read things in these games. In any case, let's read through this together. It says, as part of an open house at a crafts studio, 3 teachers, J, K, and L, will give 6 consecutive presentations on 6 different subjects. So already I'm imagining, okay, we got 3 teachers, we got 3 people in some room, and they're going to give presentations to presumably some other people, but I don't really care about those other people right now. I just have these 3 teachers, and I know that they're going to give 6 presentations. So they're going to stand up one after another, right, and give presentations. And given the fact that there are 3 teachers and 6 consecutive presentations on 6 different subjects, what do I know about these teachers right now? Just the fact that there are 3 of them and they're going to give 6 presentations. Yeah, some of them have to repeat, right? You can't have 3 teachers and give 3 presentations without at least one of them giving more than 1 presentation. Now, maybe 2 of them just give 1 presentation and the third person gives 4 presentations. I don't know at this point, but I am like already aware of the fact that, okay, so some of these folks are going to be getting up more than once, right? Stella, I see you have your hand up. Question. You're still muted, by the way. Or are you raising from before? If you're raising your hand from before, no worries. I'll just ignore that. Okay, anyways. So the next rule, Jay will present on needlework and origami. Okay, so boom. This person is doing 2 presentations. K is on pottery, stenciling, and textile making. I'm just going to say PST. Okay, so this person is presenting 3 times, which means the last person has to go once. And it does say L is on W, woodworking. The order of the presentations will meet the following conditions. Okay, again, I'm not writing anything down. This is pretty simple, right? We got 3 teachers, we got 6 subjects, we got 6 presentations. K cannot give 2 presentations in a row. All right, so K can't stand up there twice in a row, which means K has to have at least 1 person present, right, between K's other presentations. And we know that K goes 3 times. All right, so right now, I'm just going to stop and think about this for a second. If K went first, right, we could have K present first, but not second, so third, right? Not fourth, so 5th. So K could go 1, first, third, and 5th. Are you guys cool with that? Now, there's only 6 different ways, there's only 6 presentations. So here's my question to you. How many other arrangements could we have for K? K is fairly constrained, right? Because it can go in 1, 3, and 5. It could go in, okay, Brandon says 4, Sarah says 4, Nancy 4. Let's talk about this. So it could go in 1, 3, and 5. It could go in 1, 3, and 6. Are you guys cool with that? Notice we're not writing anything. Are you seeing this in your head? Okay. So it could go, K could go in 1, 3, and 6, 1, 3, and 5. So we have those two. Oh, okay. If K is at 1 and 6, right? K could also go in not just 3, but what other slot? Yeah, 1, 4, and 6. So K could go in 1, 4, and 6. And finally, I could move K into the second slot, right? And K could go into 2, 4, and 6. Okay, I know that's a little maybe different to try to think through those things in your head versus drawing them. You can draw if that's helpful, but in my mind, you know, it's not too hard to imagine that scenario. So there are only 4 different ways in which K can present. Are you guys cool with that? Okay, raise your hand. Raise your hand in Zoom and be like, Ben, I hate that, if you're totally confused. So, okay. Anyways, let's keep going. So that's just the first rule. The second rule, the presentation on S must be given earlier than the one on O. Okay, so S is by K and O origami is by J. So, okay, I'll just keep that in mind. The S has to come before the O, which means really the K has to present at some point before J. It's somewhere in that arrangement. The last rule, the presentation on the presentation on T must be given earlier than the one on W. So again, T is presented by K and W is presented by L. So K is going to have to come before L at some point. All right. Looking at these 3 rules, actually looking at all these variables, there are 9 variables in this game, right? There are the 3 teachers, and then there are the 6 presentations. Of all those variables, which variable do you feel like is the most popular, the most common, the most recurring? Okay, Monica says, everybody says K. Yeah, because not only does K appear 3 times and in that first rule, in the next 2 rules, K is implicated, right? K presents S and K also presents T. So K is a big deal in this game. Given that K can only be arranged in 4 different ways, I'm going to start drawing my diagram for this game around those 4 assumptions. Okay, so either I'm going to create 4 different worlds, right? One world in which K is in 1, 3, and 5. One world where K is in 1, 3, and 6. Another world where K is in 1, 4, and 6, and then finally 2, 4, and 6. Okay, so those are the only possibilities for K, but that covers everything. And then I can start putting in other things given we know where K goes. So let's start this here. So 1, 2, 3, 4. Shoot, I feel like I'm gonna run out of space. So maybe I come over here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay. So, by the way, when we set up diagrams here at the Demon, it may feel like we're doing a lot more work up front, but that is on purpose. If we can solve the game now, then the questions are going to go super fast. So in most cases, I'm spending at least half of my time in the setup for the game and sometimes even more. And then the questions just go very quickly after that. All right, so K is 1, 3, or 5, 1, 3, or 6, and then 1, 4, or 6. And then, of course, 2, 4, and 6. Okay, are you guys okay with this so far? Okay. Now, I'm going to keep track of the teachers on top, and I'm going to keep track of their topics below. Okay. What do we know? I do want to kind of keep track of what everybody is teaching. So I have J is N, and J is also O. K is PST, K, P, K, S, K, T, and then LW. Okay. We know from the last two rules that S is before O. So that means KS is actually before JO, and KT, right? KT is before LW. KT is before LW. All right, so I have four of our presentations addressed here, right? And so that means I have 2 left. I have the other K, which is KP, and I have the other J, which is JN. So I just boxed those folks because they're floaters. There aren't really rules dealing with them explicitly. Okay. All right. Now we have all the variables. We just have to worry about these 2 rules, right? And when I look over here, I'm looking at all these right here. These Ks, what do I know about these Ks? They're last. Yeah, they have to be P. Some of you see this already, right? If this KS is coming before this and this KT is coming before this, then these Ks can't be these Ks, right? The only K that's left is KP. So I'm going to go ahead and note that here. This is KP, KP, KP. Okay. Now, this K right here can have something come after it. So it could be one of these Ks. So I can't say that that's KP. So far, so good? Okay. Now, that means that at least for these 3 worlds, these other Ks are either going to be S or T. Let me just focus in on one of these. Like if we focus in down here, I know this is ST, ST, and I'm going to put an arc because I don't know the order, okay? I just know that one of these is S and one of these is T, but it could be going back and forth. It doesn't matter because the JO could come here or the LW could come here or vice versa, right? So I don't really know where the ST goes. But what is left down here, I know these 2 have to come in these slots, which means this slot is going to be the remaining thing. It's going to be JN. Sound good? Okay. So I am just going to leave that like that. I just know that these 2 have to come in here somewhere depending on whether this is S or T. Now, there is a decent amount of flexibility in this game. If this is KS, then JO could come here or really anytime after. So this could be KS or KT. This could be KS or KT. Again, I don't really know. So I'm just going to have these going back and forth. The only thing I have left to worry about is this guy, JN. And again, it really... in this case, it can't go here. I can't put JN here because then I won't have room for something to come after KT or KS, right? So I do know that the JN has to come somewhere in here. I'm going to put it here and have it going back and forth. So JN is somewhere in there because it can't go there. In this setup, though, it really could go anywhere because I could put it here, here, or here, and I would still have room to put things after the KS and the KT. Up here, Wow, there's a lot of flexibility. I mean, I can, as long as I can put things after the K, which I can, I should be fine. So I just have to remember these rules. I am going to stop there and just jump into the questions. Okay. So we have 4 worlds. They're somewhat complete. They're all pretty, these are pretty close to being done. That one is quite flexible, but let's go ahead and see how these questions look. Does anyone have any questions before we go into the actual questions? Okay. Let's go to question 6, and let's see how quickly we can go through these. Question 6 says, which one of the following could be the order of presentations from first to sixth? Here, I'm just going to use process of elimination. So I'm going to go to the rules. For example, K can't go back to back. And what do we know about K? We know that K is PST, right? So these answer choices are presented without the teachers, but I know that I know that K, for example, is PST. So if I look for PST, I see that in answer choice A, T and P are together, right? So that's not good. PST is fine in B. PST is fine in C. PST is fine in D. And PST is not good in E because S and T are together. So I'm just looking for answer choices that violate that first rule, that K can't go consecutively, right? Okay, the next rule says that S must be earlier than O. So that's just this rule right here. I'm just going to go through these lists and look for S before O. That's fine in B. That's fine in C. That's not fine in D. So D is out. Okay, last rule. T has to be before W. That is fine in C. That is not fine in B. So at this point, I've eliminated A, B, D, and E. The answer has to be C. Okay, so for that first rule, which is pretty common, it's just process of elimination. All right. Let's go to this next question, question 7. If T is presented fifth, which one of the following could be true? So if T is fifth, I'm not looking at any of these worlds because K is T, right? And K can't go here. So it's just this world right here. If T is presented fifth, I'm going to go ahead and make a little space down here. I know I'm in this world. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. K, K, K. We know that T goes there. I know that if we have KT, I have to have LW after it. So this is going to be LW. This is going to be the P and the S are left. They're going back and forth. I don't necessarily know the order in which they go, but whatever happens will affect JO and JN a little bit. Which one of mine could be true? Could N be 6? No. Could P be 4th? No, because P has to be in one of these two. Could C be 2nd? Or sorry, S be 2nd? No. Has to be 1st or 3rd. Could it be 3rd? Yeah, it looks like it could be. So D is probably the answer. E, W is 2nd. No, W is last. So it's definitely D for question 7. Okay. Okay. Let's go to question 8. If N is presented first, which one of the following could be true? If N is presented first, well, that's not going to happen here, here, or here. So I must be in this world. Which one of the following could be true? Okay. O is 6. No, P is. P is 2nd. No, S or T is. S is 3rd. No, it's got to be 2nd or 4th. D, T is 5th. No, it's got to be 2nd or 4th. E, W is 3rd. Yeah, W could go here. We could have LW as long as KT is right here. Okay, so the answer is E for 8. All right, question 9. J cannot give both. Okay, so what can J not do? Which two presentations can J not do? Can J do first and third? Well, not here. Not here, not here. But wait, J could go first and third here, so that could be true. B, could J go first and fourth? No, no, no. Yeah, no, because even here where J is first, it can't be fourth because K is fourth. So in none of these worlds, J could be in first or fourth, so that could never be true. So that is the answer. Let's look at the others really quickly just to make sure. So C, could J be first and fifth? No, 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 but here, J could be first and fifth. So yeah, that could be true. Could J be second and third? No, maybe here. Yeah, you could have J, J. So that could be true, which is why it's wrong. E, second and fourth. J, J. So that could be true. All right, so the answer is B on that one. I hope if we pause for a half second here, I hope you guys see how quickly this is going once you have these diagrams, right? They weren't complete, but these questions are still being answered by them. Question 10, if n is presented 6, which one of the following must be true? If n is 6, okay, so that's none of these. It must be this world again. Ooh, I only have 2 questions left. I might just use this diagram right here. So if n is 6, I'm going to put n here. We know that n is j, so j goes here. What do I know at this point? I know that ks and kt have to have something after it, but it's not going to be jn, right? So this k right here has to be p, okay? So this is going to be P, and then we have S and T, again, going back and forth, and then J, O, L, W are going to come in here. I don't know where they're going to go. It really depends on S and T. Okay, so they're going to be going back and forth as well. Which one of the following must be true? Oh, must be true. Well, none of this stuff right here is really set in stone. So I'm guessing the answer is going to have to do with what we've written down here. O is fourth. It could be second, could be fourth. B, P is fifth. Yep, we already figured that out. That must be true. C, S is third, maybe, doesn't have to be though. T is first, maybe, but doesn't have to be. E, W is fourth. Again, maybe, but doesn't have to be because it's going back and forth. So the correct answer here is B. All right. Last question. Question 11. Which one of the following cannot be the subject of the second presentation? Okay. Who can't be second? Well, let's take a look. Could we have N be second? I don't see why not. N could come here. Could O be second? I don't see why not. We could have O come here. Could P be second? Oh, well, P is never second in these worlds, but could P be second up here? No, because it would have to be K. So P can never be second because it's K. So that's the answer. Let's look at D and E really quick. Could T be second? Oh, yeah, we have T and S going back and forth here. Could W be second? Yes, we could have W come over here, and then it would be second. So C is the answer. All right. So let's pause there for a half second. What questions do you guys have? Raise your hands. Happy to clarify anything. Cassandra. Uh-oh.
Wait,
I don't know if I can hear you.
hello, can you hear me?
Yep, go for it.
Oh, okay, sorry. So I've actually done this game before, and
Yeah.
I just based on a pattern of the logic games I've done before, I've noticed that a lot of times when Nathan does the explanations, he skips over some of the like what could be listed questions and starts with the if then. questions.
Yep.
Is that commonly like what should be done? Like, what should we do the if then questions first and then go back to the lists?
That's a good question. I actually gave him that idea a long time ago, so I should I should probably be doing it more myself. I find that when I create worlds, and I probably should have done so here because we ended up doing 2 if questions. But what often happens with worlds is that you the system is essentially solved, and so the need to create these diagrams for the if questions becomes less common, right? So I guess I've almost gotten out of the habit. That said, there's no downside to doing it. I mean, you just skip ahead until you see if, and then you do it. And if you can answer it without drawing another diagram, great. If you can draw another diagram, then it's going to help you. So I really probably should have done that here. It wouldn't have hurt us, and it might have helped us. In fact, I think for the very last question, which was not if, we used this diagram right here to immediately like eliminate some answers. It's like, oh yeah, I know that could be true. So it's certainly helpful, and I should have done that. Floricia, how do you say your name? Sorry, I'm really bad at pronouncing names.
It's pronounced Felicia.
Felicia, okay, cool.
Would you please go over question 9 again? I'm really struggling to see how J can occupy second and third in the third world.
Okay. Yeah, so this world, right, is the only place where J could go in second and third. Let's take a look here. So what do we need? We need, if we have J, both J's here, then we'd have JO and JN. You cool with that? And that would force KS to go here because KS has to come before JO. And then LW would come after the KT. And that could work because we could have both the J's in 2 and 3.
I must have missed a rule somewhere.
Okay, well, keep in mind there are only 3 rules. So we have this one, and then the K rule that says it has to be separated from itself. And we have that baked into our diagram here.
Mm-hmm. Okay, I'll thank you for the explanation. I'm gonna sit with it and just kind of work it through again.
Yeah, no worries. Alex.
So my question is, how do you know when to split worlds versus when not to? Because I figured out like all the places K could go, and I just started making different worlds completely filled out. But that was like, kind of inefficient, and I didn't even finish. So.
Oh yeah, no, certainly as we get used to worlds, getting comfortable with when to kind of break loose and go into the questions, right? Most people's tendency is to not subdivide the worlds enough, but you also have this situation where you're like, okay, I get it. I gotta divide these worlds. I gotta divide and conquer, and you divide too much, right? Here for me, there's only 3 rules in this game. You cool with that? The first rule we got rid of because we baked it into our diagram, and it sounds like you did that. So then we only have 2 rules left. So then it's like, okay, I have to deal with S and T, and both of these rules deal with S and T. So I could take, well, this was a more empty world, but I could take this world and I could subdivide it into 2 worlds, right? KS, KT, or KT, KS. And then what would I do? Well, I would have to put these things after wherever these went, right? And that's what you did, Alex?
Yeah.
And here's part of the problem. They come sometime after, right? So for example, if I commit KS to here, well, I know that JO has to come sometime after KS, but it doesn't necessarily have to go here. It could go here or here. So in my mind, it's like, well, if I make this assumption, if I assume that KS goes here, I'm not going to get an immediate payoff for that because JO could go here, here, or here. I can still fit LW after KT, right? So like assuming that KS goes into that slot isn't immediately obviously beneficial to me. Like it only has to be slightly beneficial, but there's no concrete inference that comes out of that. And so I'm looking at that and I'm saying, I'm looking at this, and this has a little more concreteness because this is right here. But I saw all three and this one empty. I was like, you know what? Let's wrap it up there and go into the questions, because it seems like we're just one step away from the last inference. Depending on where this goes, I can just answer the questions. So I guess I didn't see an immediate like payoff by assuming where S and T goes. Natasha.
Hi, Ben. Just to piggyback off of the last two questions regarding worlds, like when to know how far it is to go. And then, so I'm gonna start with that one. When I did this, I guess when I think of worlds, I just want to make sure I'm doing it efficiently. I did it the same way where I put the N in one, like in the last frame, and then P in last in the last 3 frames. But then I didn't worry much of filling in the options because I knew that there was a possibility it could go. So as long as what I did is I wrote the 2 rules, S before O and T before W on the side of it. So that way I just know if I approach one of these frames, I don't have to essentially write, or that's what, 2, 4, 6, that's 8 different frames if I have the all W and in the second one. So what I did is I just put, when I do worlds, I write exactly what the inference forces something to go, where I know for sure this has to go here. And then the rest, I leave it to the side. Is that an efficient way to do worlds?
Well, I mean, I think there are some advantages to, this is still something that must be true. I mean, I'm using the arc. It sounds like you left that out, right?
I have the arc in.
Oh, you do have the arc. Oh, okay, great.
But yeah. I mean, I didn't do ST and then TS. Like I didn't do sub worlds.
Yeah.
Is it so efficient to do it that way?
I'm guessing that some people probably did, and maybe it was successful. But I've to me, it felt like a lot more work for what I was going to get out of it, so I stopped. So I do think it's efficient, at least for this game. Some of this is just a judgment call, though. I mean, if you do go further with these, I'd be curious. Did anyone do that? Okay, we know Alex did, right? And that didn't work out super well for you, but I mean, you might, if you did it, you would probably only do one more for each of these. And then this one actually right here would fill out completely, right? So if you did this one, you could do this one, and you could do this one, and then you'd have 6 worlds total, and these 2 would be essentially complete, or almost complete. I don't know. It could be. I think it could work either way. That's only 2 more worlds, and then now they're complete. At least those 2. It could totally be done that way. So I wouldn't say that doing that is inefficient, or that this is necessarily more efficient. It just ended up being where I stopped.
So it just kind of depends on the games to see how much further it takes you.
Yeah,
okay.
Exactly. And for this game, you could try to do it again. Pull out another blank sheet of paper, start from the beginning, and then split these last 2, and then answer the questions and see if it helps you. I mean, one downside with too many worlds, right, is that you have to look through more diagrams to verify that something must be true or could be true or whatever, right? So there are trade-offs as you add more worlds. It really depends on how definitive they can be as you add them.
And then,
yeah.
I'm sorry, the second question. I heard what you said about the if. You said normally you would take the if first and then do the worlds. But if you have your worlds and they're like almost entirely filled out and you only have like 1 or 2 options left, would you still approach it with the ifs first, or would you say, okay, I got most of it, let me just run through the game?
Yeah, well, I definitely would be much less inclined to do so. Like at that point, right? Especially when your worlds are complete. If they're complete, you solve the system. It's like what you can't draw anything else. What else are you going to draw? So does it matter though? No. So if it's just easier to remember, do if questions first and get in that habit, there's really no downside. And And just like in the Demon on the actual test, when you answer questions, the navigation will fill up, right? It will, so you know which questions you've skipped. You're not going to run into that problem where you're like, oh, which questions do I have to go back to? Or did I forget to do this question? It's like, yeah, well, it's not dark. So I got to go back to that question and do it.
Thank you.
Yeah. Okay, cool. Thanks for all the questions. Anything else before we try the next game? All right. Let's go ahead and try game 2, which is, what is that? Recycling centers. Give it your best shot and we'll go from there. Okay, so that was 10 minutes. Looks like 43% of you have filled out the poll. That's optional, of course, but if you don't see it, you can click on the polls button at the bottom of Zoom and just tell me what you think of this game. Most of you rate it a difficulty 4, okay, which is also, I think, what it's rated. Yep, that's what it's rated. So I don't know if you guys are seeing that and then being like, yeah, it's a 4. Or if you actually think it's a 4, I don't know where you might get this sense, but in any case, let's give it a whirl. It looks like, wow, the vast majority of you created worlds for this game. 25% of you did not, and 5 of you are like, huh, what's worlds? I'm not sure if I did that or not, so let's see if I can help clarify a little bit of that. Let's see here. Okay, so this is test J game 4. Test J, by the way, is called test J because LSAC did not give it a number. It was released without a number convention. It came between tests 52 and 51. In any case, I'm sure none of you care about that, but there are exactly 3 recycling centers in Riverton. All right, we have center 1, center 2, and center 3. That's pretty clear to me, makes sense. We got 3 places where we recycle. Exactly 5 kinds of material are recycled at these recycling centers. GN, well, glass, newsprint, plastic, tin, and wood. So in my mind, GNPTW. Notice this is key. It says exactly 5 kinds of material are recycled. So if exactly 5 kinds of material are recycled, these are the 5 kinds that are recycled, and none of them can be left out, right? In some games, they give you the kinds of things that could be recycled, but they don't necessarily say that they have to be recycled. So you know that, yeah, some of them will be recycled, but you don't necessarily know that all of them will be. In this game, we know that all 5 things are going to appear. Cool. Somewhere. They don't have to appear in each center. They just have to appear between the 3 centers. Each recycling center recycles at least 2, but no more than 3 of these kinds of material. Okay. So at a minimum, you have 2 in each center, which means how many things at a minimum are getting recycled? Well, at a minimum, we have 6. Are you guys cool with that? So at least one of these materials has to be recycled at 2 places, right? Because we have 2, 2, 2, that's 6, but we have 5 things, so one of them is going to go twice. Okay, any recycling center that recycles wood also recycles newsprint. What that's saying is that if center 1 has wood, it also has to have newsprint. If center 3 has newsprint, does it have to have wood? No, not necessarily. It certainly could, and it might, but it doesn't have to, right? This is saying if you're going to recycle wood, you better recycle newsprint. But if you're recycling newsprint, it doesn't say anything about whether or not you have to recycle wood. Okay, Kenzo, you have a question?
Yes. Does this first condition mean, no, sorry, the second condition, any material that is in center 1 must also be in center 2, or that's only any material in center 2 must be in center 1?
Yeah, so technically the rule is just saying, hey, look, if you're in center 2, then you have to be in center 1. It's not saying that if you're in center 1, that you have to be in center 2. But given the fact that we have a limited number of slots, right? It's going to be the case that in some situations, if you're in 1, you have to go in 2 as well, because there's no other way to get things into 2.
Okay.
But the rule itself, by itself, is just saying, hey, if you're in 2, then you're in 1, and that's it.
Okay, thank you.
Yep. Okay, so that was rule 2. Rule 3, only one of the recycling centers recycles plastic. Okay, P is showing up only once. and that recycling center does not recycle glass. Okay, so I actually want to focus in on this rule because it's pretty constrictive, right? Only one place recycles plastic. If only one place recycles plastic, what do you know about plastic? Anything? Okay, yeah, 1 or 3. In other words, it can't go in 2, right? Because if it goes in 2, then it has to go in 1. So now it's going in 2 places. So that's not going to work. So it's either got to be in 3 or in, even it could be in 1 as long as it's not in 2. And so I would like right there, I'm inclined to create 2 worlds, one in which P is in 3 and one in which P is in 1. You guys cool with that? Floricia, am I saying your name right? Still?
Think the number 4 and then
Yeah.
Felicia.
Okay.
Okay, so I want to, if we can, go back to Ken's question for a second, and then rules 1 and 2.
Yeah.
So I understand we're looking for at least rule 1, sufficient versus necessary.
Okay.
So I get that, any center with wood must also have newsprint, but not the reverse. Got it. However, with rule 2, that's not necessarily the case. If I understand your answer to her, that, whatever happens in center 1 doesn't necessarily have to happen in center 2, or is it because of how the worlds are set up, it's sort of constrained in such a way that might happen?
Yeah, it's so in isolation, the rule says nothing about what happens when something is in 1. So when something is in 1, we don't know whether it's going to be in 2 or not. We do know that if it's in 2, it definitely has to be in 1. But if it's in 1, it doesn't necessarily have to be in 2. I was just saying that given the fact that we have a limited number of slots in this game, and I think this will be easier to see when we're actually looking at an example, but that's going to force some things that are in 1 to end up being in 2.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah, Natasha.
I have a question regarding rule number 2.
Yeah.
So wait, was it number 2? No, I'm sorry, rule number 3. It says that only one of the recycling centers can have plastic. So without taking into account the other rules, just looking at rule 3 and understanding what that means, would it be safer to say, okay, that just means that it can't go in 2, because if you go in 2, you have to go in 1? Is it safer to just assume, well, not assume, but say, okay, P cannot go in 2 rather than P can go in 1 and 3, given the fact that we're just focusing on that rule? Because then it's like pushing beyond what we know based off of that rule itself.
Well, okay, so yes and no. So when it says only one of the places can recycle plastic, right? The immediate inference is, okay, well, I better not put it in 2, because if I put it in 2, then it's going in 2 places, so that doesn't work. So then the question is, well, where does it go? So I would then say, can it go in 1 and can it go in 3? We don't know for sure, but it's fine to go ahead and create 2 worlds, one in which P is in 1 and one where P is in 3, if you don't see any problems right away. Because all this rule has told us is that P can't be in 2. So I'm like, well, maybe P can be in 1 or 3. I create those 2 worlds. If it turns out that P can't go in one of those groups or centers, right, then we'll eventually realize that as we start to add in more rules, and then we'll just kill that world.
Okay, thank you.
Yep. Okay, so I'm going to create 2 worlds now. I'm going to have 2 diagrams. Each world will have 3 centers, and I'm going to put P in 1, and I'm going to put P in 3. Okay, so 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Well, let's do it like this. Okay, so this is my first world. I have 3 centers, and I have 2 slots in each center. In some centers, I could have up to 3 things, right? I used dotted lines to signal to myself that these things are optional. I don't have to have them, but I could. Okay, Eric, you cool with that? Sweet. All right, so let's keep going. So the next world is going to look the same. Okay, so P is in 3. That's one option. P is in 1. Now I could put P in 1 here, but if P is in 1, it has to be the thing that is not in 2, right? So I'm actually going to put it down here. I'm just going to fill this in. I'm going to put it down here because whatever goes here is going to have to show up here, right? So I just want to leave room for that. And I know it's not going to be P because P is not going to be in 2. Any questions? Okay. Now, this rule continues, right? It says, oh, by the way, that recycling center does not recycle glass. So I could just say, okay, well, G doesn't go here. G doesn't go here. I tend to, negative inferences happen all the time. We know that G can't go here. We know that G can't go here. I almost always, though, just immediately ask myself, okay, well, what does that mean? Where is G going to go? So I don't even really take the time to write this down. If G is not in 3, then it has to be in 1 or 2. Eric, you have a question about these rules or these worlds?
I just want to comment that if P is in that 3rd spot in number 1, then the center 2 can only have 2 materials.
Oh,
That 3rd
absolutely.
spot, yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. Because if anything came here, it would have to kick out P, right? So you're right. So we could do a couple things here. I think the easiest thing is just to cross it out, but you could also get rid of that, right? You can't put anything into that 3rd slot. Okay, cool. Back to G, we know that G can't be in 1. So is G going to be in 2? Nope, because if it goes in 2, then it's going to be in 1, and that's a problem. So in this world, we know that G has to be in 3. So far, so good? Okay, let's go to this diagram. G can't be here. So it could be in 2 or 1. If it's in 2, what do we know? It's going to be in 1, right? And if it's in 1, well, I don't know whether it's in 2 or not, but there are really only 2 possibilities. Either it's in 2 and therefore also in 1, which means it's in both, or it's only in 1, it's only in center 1, and that's it, right? So I'm going to create a second diagram here. Okay, so I took this world and I split it into 2 worlds, and either G is here and here, or G is just here. Sound good? Okay, and if G is just here, as Eric said, nothing can come here. And so we're going to have 2 other things going here. All right. So what I've done with this last rule by creating these worlds is I've gotten rid of it, right? There is no other way that G and P can be arranged. These are the only 3 ways. Okay, so the last rule, you can forget about it. You never have to think about it again. We have 2 more rules. We have if W is recycled, then N is recycled, and we have, of course, if 2, then 1. Let's talk about the WN rule. Actually, hold on. Who else is left? So we have glass, newsprint, plastic, tin. Okay, so tin, we have to deal with tin, we have to deal with wood, and we have to deal with newsprint, right? These are the three variables that are left. If we have W, then we know we have to have N as well, okay? I want to actually talk about this world first. If I have W here, I mean, there's a few options, but I could put, let's start here. If W goes here, then N would have to go with it. You guys cool with that? If W comes in 2, then N would have to go here. And if W comes in 1, then N would have to come here. If I put W in 1, what do I know about 2? It's going to have W as well, right? Because there's only 2 slots left here, and there are 2 slots here. So if I fill these up with W and N, these are going to have to become W and N, okay? My point is that I really only have 2 options. Either W goes here, and then I have N here, or W comes up here, and really both places, and then N comes down there. There's only 2 options for N. Because I can't put WN in all 3 of them, because if I put it in all 3, then there would be no room for T. You guys cool with that? So I could actually, just for simplicity, I'm going to split this world again, and I'm going to say, okay, we have G, we have P, and either W comes here, which means N comes here, W comes here, N comes here, or W comes here and N comes here. Now, I know that's the case because everything has to be used and W has to go somewhere, right? Okay. In this world, I still haven't used T, so T has to go here. Are you cool with that? Okay. This slot is still available. I know P can't go there. I know G and T can't go there because they're already gone. W could not go here, right? Because if W went there, N would have to go there. There's no room. So the only thing that could come here is N. I'm going to put it in parentheses because I'm not saying that it has to go there. I'm just saying if it is going to go there, it's going to be N. Okay, down here, what do I still need to use? I need something. I need T. So T, no matter where it goes, it's going to go in both places. So T, T. What's left for here? There's only one more thing that could go here, and that is N. Because I can't put another T, I can't put W, there's not enough room, and G and P are taken care of. So this is N, N. All right, these 2 worlds are complete. Over here, I can still do the W thing, right? Like, for example, can I put W in all 3 of these spots? No. So it's going to be the same sort of thing. I either have to put W here, and then I'm going to have N here, or I'm going to put W here, and then I'm going to have N here, WN. To save time, I feel like the only other option here is T. So we're going back and forth with W and T. So I'm going to say W, T, and this is going back and forth like this. Because if W goes here, I'm going to have WN, WN, and then T is going to have to go there. If W comes here, then I'm going to have to put T over here, and we're going to have T and maybe N, maybe not. Questions about that? Same thing here. I have to put W here, here, or here. If it goes here, we're going to have both. I think we're going to end up with the same scenario. I'm just going to draw it really quick to see. Either W goes here or W goes here. If W goes here, we have N. If W goes here, we have N. And then T would have to come up here, T and N. here, T would go here. This is X. And then I don't know whether anything goes there, but if it is, it's going to be N. So really these diagrams are kind of doing the same thing. This is the only one that I didn't finish, but I'm getting the sense of this game. So I'm just going to go into the questions. Francesca, question.
Hi, yeah, my question is from a little bit ago. When you first made the world that's above that horizontal line with G on the bottom left, yes. Why did you put G on the dotted line? Like, is it not definitely there? Or am I misunderstanding the dotted line?
Oh, I took. Yep, sorry. So dotted line means to me you could put something here. In this particular world, what the heck was I doing? Why did I split that? Shit, now I can't even remember what I was doing.
I think that you made that one as a split from the world above it, but then you put P in the top right and G in the bottom left, and I was confused.
Oh, that's your question. Okay, I am moving too quickly and talking to myself. This is, well, okay. So if I took this and why did I do that? Wow, I'm really like talking to you and not thinking about why I'm doing what I'm doing. Anyways, I don't remember why I did this, but if I took this world and I was going to split it, then it would be PGG. Was I thinking?
Can I interrupt?
Yeah, go ahead.
So we did the fact that if it's in two, it's in one. We did the 2 and 1 and
Oh,
in one only.
yes, this was world 1. This was 2, right? And then this was 2, like A, and this was 2B. We split. These were the original 3 worlds. Does that make sense, Francesca?
Right, yes.
So then I took this and I split it again. You're wondering why I put this G down here when I created these 2 worlds?
Yeah.
Oh, I did that because when P is in third, sorry, I totally forgot what I did. When P is in third, right, there are 2 options. Either G goes in 2 and then G also goes in 1, or G just goes in 1.
Okay.
Like if G goes in 2, then it also has to go in 1.
Mhm.
But if G goes in 1, it doesn't necessarily have to go in 2. But the only way for it to not also go in 2 is it's going to have to come down here and be the one that doesn't repeat.
Okay. That makes sense.
Cool. Sorry about that. Okay, so we had these 3 original. We had these 2 worlds. I split this.
Yeah.
And then I took this world and I split it, and I took this world and I split it.
Right.
Okay. Cool.
Thank you.
Yeah. Next question.
Hi, Ben. I had a moment where I had to double back in the paragraph where they were laying out the rules and to check if we had to use all the variables, because I think in one of my worlds, like in your world 2A there,
Yeah.
I wanted to make sure we had to use all the variables, but I didn't really see that language there. Or is there a way that you can indicate to me like what language specifically states that we had to use all the variables?
It's the second sentence. Exactly 5 kinds of material are recycled at these centers. So we have to do all 5.
So when it says exactly all 5, that's kind of just implied within that.
Well, it says exactly 5, and then it gives us 5 things. So those are the 5 things that have to be recycled. Yeah.
Is there wording that would indicate like otherwise, like so the opposite of that, where it's like optional?
Yeah. So when it's optional, it's the absence of this wording. So that's the kind of language that people tend to miss the most. It might say something like there are 5 kinds of materials that could be recycled at these centers. And you're like, okay, well, these are the 5. Do I have to recycle all 5 of them? No, not necessarily.
Okay, thank you.
Yep. Next question. Scott.
Yeah, Ben, when you split the second world, you know, when you have the TTG, can the first center be W? No, the first world, but you split it, the TTG.
Yeah, yep.
Okay. So again, can center one be WNP without the T?
Oh, WNP.
Because it's not sufficient and necessary because N could just be solely in center two, where it could be a W or a T, correct?
Well, that's where we get this world because whatever you have here has to go here, right?
Right. So, but again, right. So it's not necessary. So I could have whatever I have in center one does not necessarily have to be in two. So could the T be really a split to a WT? Because I'm still.
This one right here?
Yes, correct.
No, because if you put W here, right?
Correct.
Let's just say it's W.
Okay.
Well, there's no room for it. Right?
No, get rid of the N. I don't need to have the T. Oh, you're saying because whatever's in two has to be in one. Okay, correct.
Yeah. So
Okay.
It's weird. The rule is only telling me if this is here, then it's got to be here. But because I have a limited number of spots.
Right. Okay. I was just making sure because I was implying the conditional statement instead of using the mirror of rule 2. Okay, cool.
Got it. Yeah,
Thank
it's
you so
really, yeah, no problem. It's really just a limited number of spots. Okay, cool. Let's go to question 18. Let's see if we can answer these in 2 minutes. Question 18, which one of the following could be an accurate account of all the kinds of material recycled at each center in Riverton? Okay, so here I'm just, again, doing process of elimination. I'm going to start with if W then N. So if W then N, that's fine for A. Oh, no, it's not fine for A because in center 3, I have W, but I don't have N. So A is out. WN is good in B. WN is good in C. WN is good in D. I'm just looking for W and seeing if it has N. WN is good in E. Okay, so I only was able to get rid of answer choice A. For rule 2, if it's in 2, then it's got to be in 1. So for B, I have GNT in 2, and I have GNT in 1. For answer choice C, I have GNT, GNW. That's not good. So answer choice C is out because what's in 2 is not in 1. Answer choice D is okay because I have GT and then I have GT. E, I have NPW and I have NPW, so that's fine. Okay, last rule. Only one center recycles plastic. That is fine in B, that's fine in D, and that's not good in E, because E, I have 2 plastics. And then finally, glass and plastic can't go together. That's a problem in D, which leaves the answer as B. Okay, so that's just process of elimination. Are we okay with that? Let's keep going. Question 19. Which one of the following is a complete and accurate list? Oh, you know, I just gave you this lecture about doing the if questions first and failed to do it. So I'm going to skip to 20. Question 20. If center 2 recycles 3 kinds of material, then which one of the following kinds of materials must center 3 recycle? Okay, if 2 recycles 3 kinds, so I'm not in this world, I'm not in this world, not in this world, not in this world. This is the only world in which 2 could do 3 kinds, right? And if it does 3 kinds, then we're going to have 3 kinds in 1 as well. And what has to be in center 3? Well, center 3 has to have P. So that's the answer. Let's go to question 21. If each recycling center in Riverton recycles exactly 3 kinds of material, then which one of the following could be true? Okay, so again, we're in this world. Only center 2 recycles glass. No, center 1 could as well, and in fact does. Only center 3 recycles newsprint. No, actually, newsprint could be in all 3. In fact, it has to be in all 3. Right? That's really the issue. Because if I have WN, WN, I would have T and I would have to have N. So it's going to be in all 3. C, only center 1 recycles plastic. No, it can't happen. It's in center 3. only center 3 recycles tin. Could that be true? I could have tin, TN, WN, WN. So that could be true. D could be true. E, only center 1 recycles wood. No, because we have 3 and 3, these things have to be mirror images of each other, which means center 2 is going to recycle wood as well if center 1 is. So E cannot be true. The only answer here that could be true is D. Questions about that? Okay. I'm going to go to the next if question, which happens to be question 22. 22, if center 3 recycles glass, and we're not looking at this world, we're looking at this world and this world. We're looking at these 2 worlds. Which one of the following kinds of materials must center 2 recycle? Okay, well, N. That's what's true in both. So the answer is B. Okay. Last question. It's also an if question. Okay, if center 1 is the only recycling center that recycles wood, the only one that recycles wood, not here, not here, not here, not here. Okay, I'm back to this world. If it's the only one that recycles wood, then I know I'm looking at this situation, right? That's the thing that has to be wood so that it doesn't repeat over here. Are you guys cool with that? So then what's going to happen? That makes this newsprint, right? So wood and then newsprint. That means this has to be newsprint. I need T somewhere, which we kind of already knew. So T has to go here. That's all I know. Okay. Which one of mine could be a complete and accurate list of the kinds of material that one of the recycling center recycles? Could we have plastic and tin? Yes, we could. Okay, let's just look at the rest really quick. NW, no, because that's not a complete list. It would have to be NWG. NT, again, if N came here, that would not be a complete list. GW, not a complete list. GT, never going to happen. So the only answer here is A. I'm going to go to the one question we skipped, which was question 19. Which one of the following is the complete and accurate list of the recycling centers in Riverton, any one of which that could recycle plastic? We already figured that out. Plastic has to be 1 or 3. So that's going to be answer choice D. Questions on this game? I'm sorry we went over. Thanks for hanging out anyway. Happy to go over anything that's still confusing. All right. Well, questions about games in general? Tianya.
So I am retaking on Wednesday. I had a really odd experience when I sat for my exam last Saturday. My proctor kept flagging me for looking down and taking notes while I was doing my games.
Yeah.
I'm curious if you've heard that experience, because I found that my iPad is definitely wider range, so I'll try to use that, but it was just such an odd experience. And I'm like trying to do this, we'll look up at her. So just curious if you've heard that or other ways people have worked that out.
Wow. That's interesting. So you were just doing your diagrams on paper and they were saying, hey, you can't do that.
She was just sort of like, oh, I can't see you. Oh, I can't see you. And I was like, well, I'm allowed to use scratch paper. And so it was sort of this thing. So I got to retest. I'll definitely go ask it about the proctor beforehand this time, but it was just such an odd experience. I didn't know how to sort of do both. And it was the only section where I took sort of notes or did that. So
yeah, that's a bummer. I mean, I'm sure that's happened before. Has that happened to anyone? It technically shouldn't, but
yeah, they've told me before in an exam that they can't see me while I was taking notes. I don't know if I was like my face was outside the camera a bit, maybe that's why, but not completely sure. The same situation.
Yeah. Well, yeah, maybe you have to, maybe adjusting your camera would help, but definitely talk to the proctor beforehand. You could even explain like, we're allowed to take notes. I had this problem last time. What can we do to avoid that issue? And maybe that would be enough to preemptively stop the proctor from constantly, interrupting you, because they could go back and check the rules. Cool.
Thank you.
Yep. Chelsea.
Hi, Ben. So I had the same situation as the last girl that spoke. I didn't see her name. But like I asked for time back and they didn't even give me time back when they interrupted me. So I don't know, I already took the test on Saturday, but I think it's like too late to like now retest. But what are your thoughts now? Now that I'm hearing that other people had that issue, what do you think I should do?
Well, so you're signed up for the next exam, right?
No, I took June. I took June recently on Saturday.
Well, okay. I guess because you're here, I was assuming that you are also signed up for August.
Oh yeah. Well, yeah.
I mean, at the very least, right? You gotta take it again.
Yeah.
It might be you could reach out to LSAC and tell them. They might just say, hey, that's just par for the course. But it doesn't hurt to call and ask.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean,
okay.
I don't know if they would do it just for that, but how much time did you lose?
It wasn't much, but it was like really I feel like for two sections they did that. So for my logic games, of course, and then for my LR, one of my LRs when I was diagramming. So I was really upset about that. I asked for time back, and then they were saying like, oh, the camera kept disconnecting. So I took longer than usual. They gave back some time for LR, but not for LG.
Okay. Well, maybe you could it's interesting that they gave it back to you right then. I would at the very least call LSAC, just tell them what happened, see what they say.
Okay.
Worst case scenario, you take again in August, which is always a good plan, right? And just,
right.
Even if you get to retake it, more shots at the apple, I guess.
Right.
Cool.
Okay, thanks.
Yep. Any other questions? Yes. How do you pronounce your name? You're next up.
Sheila or Chelsea?
Sheila, go for it. Yeah, perfect.
Ben, I just admire you so much. I just want to say that I noticed even when you get a brain freeze, you always seem to be cool-headed. We just have a little brain transplant in that area because, to me, when I get that frozen deer in the headlights moment, it seems like it's all is lost. And panic sets in. So, did you ever struggle with the games way back, 150 years ago? Did you ever be like slow, or were you always Mr. Engineering? Tell me the truth.
No, absolutely. The games was the hardest section for me at first. Definitely had to do a lot of games to get comfortable with them. So it was a process for me as well.
So brute force, the way Nathan talked about it, because neither of you had the demon, at your command. Did you just keep doing them?
I took a class, and so then what would happen is our instructor had diagrammed a bunch of games on paper, and he just printed them out and gave us the printouts. And so then I would do the game, and I would look at the completed diagram and try to figure out how to get to that point.
Okay, I love that. And I just want to say too that it just seems intuitive that you guys with the graph paper and everything are trying to get people to like dial it down. Like I a long time ago used to be really good at math, and I felt very confident. It's been a long time, but I see that in you. I just see that sort of like just keep the math brain going. Just don't give in to the emotional, I'm running out of time thing.
Yeah. One step at a time.
And don't worry about being slow at first, because I know like this game, both these games. Let me see. Am I telling the truth? I know that the recycling game I had done before and I had gotten it right, and today I managed to miss 2 of them because I got into that panic. So go slow till you get it right. That's just the way it is.
That's the way it is. Yeah. One step at a time.
Thank you so much. Love your class, dear.
Thanks. John.
Hey Nathan, or hey Ben, sorry. After hearing your podcast this morning, I just kind of wanted to introduce myself because I'm a blind guy. I'm doing this without diagrams. I did this one without diagrams in normal time.
Okay.
I can't explain it. I can't explain it any more than you can explain diagrams to me in a way that I can understand. You know, because like I was doing this with doing games with diagrams up until like this past test a week and a half ago, and Excel like conked out on me because we can use Excel on the test, and it's like, well, Excel wasn't working with ProctorU, and then afterwards I'm like, well, am I going to deal with this crap, or am I going to figure out how to do it in my head? And I'm just like, oh, well, in a week and a half I'm doing it in time, and I'm like, I have no idea, like, why was I not doing it this way to begin with, you know?
Yeah.
But you know, it's just like I guess nobody knows how to teach it without diagrams. Nobody, and it's just like we just have to figure it out ourselves. And you know, but am I going to go out on a limb and say that this ruling was not necessarily the right thing? Like the settlement was not necessarily the right, you know, move on LSAC's part? As a member of a community that I think has actually been hurt by the way that these games have been taught, I can't say that. But I don't think that it's necessarily the test's fault. I think it's just bad instruction more than the test itself. So
Yeah,
you
I
know.
see what you're saying. Well, there you go. I mean, that's food for thought for anyone who is struggling with the games. You know, it's like, well, let me give it a try without even diagramming. See how much you can do. Sometimes you don't even know how much you can do, right, until you try. You just feel like you have to draw, and that's not necessarily the case either. But anyways, thanks for sharing, John. I'm sure you also have, you know, lots of practice thinking through these things in your head on some level. Not necessarily games, just maybe things that maybe we just take for granted, right? We don't take the time to think about that in our head because we can just see whatever it is that we're looking at. But very cool. Okay, any other questions? Thank you guys. Sorry for going so far over. I hope that was helpful, and good luck. If you have any feedback, leave it on the syllabus page, and I'll try to make the class better. So thank you.
Thanks, Ben.
Yeah.